Morning.
Okay, you're not moving. Okay, you are. All right. So, master of victim mentality, welcome today to our chat.
Well, full
Um, for
disclosure, I thought
anybody,
only you would see that label, but now I've
yeah.
exposed myself.
Well, I actually have to say, I too have that moniker, and this is how we learn, right? Every master is a former disaster. So, we're going to talk about, and I apologize for the lighting. We've had some difficulty here today, and I'm trying not to melt. Um, we're going to talk about victim mentality. We're going to talk about righteous, entitled, needy over the next few weeks. We've got these talks scheduled. And essentially, what we're talking about are the growing pains of awakening to the true self, growing pains that we experience when we begin to take responsibility and accountability for our lives. So, Heidi and I have been working together
Mhm.
for quite a few years now. Um,
I think a decade.
yeah. Your son, who's, really tall, was quite small. So that's my marker of how long we've been at this. So for anybody who's tuning in,
Mhm.
if you're on the path to awakening, if you are ready to start to take responsibility, there are certain symptoms, signs and symptoms that you will begin to experience as a part of the awakening process. And we could also call it remembering process as well. So Heidi has experienced a number of these symptoms and has volunteered to sign up today and talk about them with us. So what are some of the symptoms that you started to experience in the very beginning? And we're going to talk about spirit, mind, and body, and some of the antidotes, or some of the things that we can do to alleviate the symptoms. So what are the things that you've experienced? Just quick recap over the years since you began the work. Take a moment to reflect. Yeah.
I was going to say, what haven't I experienced might be a shorter list right now,
Yeah,
feels
we can
like.
do it
But
alphabetical,
when we first started,
alphanumerical, however.
yeah, yeah. When we first started working, it was the really big stuff. It felt like I fell flat on my face, that really I blew up my world. So it was dealing with really big, painful, in my face issues. And then as we've been working together, I feel like a lot of the time the same things come back up, um, but at a different level, a different layer of it. And so now in my journey, it's more is coming at me at one time. They're not huge explosions. It's more coming at me, but they're a
Mm.
little bit smaller and manageable. But it still feels like a lot of work.
Yeah,
As you say, you never arrive.
yeah, we never arrive. It does get easier though. It most definitely gets easier. And we also
Mm.
experience the payback, or the reward, you could say, as a result of coming to master energy and emotion, which is our purpose, right? Everybody has a purpose. We do
Mhm.
have a mission, or a bliss, you could say, but we've all got the same purpose, which is to
Mhm.
master energy and emotion. And the first stage of that is the collapse. So we know it's time to start to
Mhm.
go inward when the outer world is collapsing, when the outer world is in chaos, when the outer world is something we can no longer manage. That is divine grace saying to us, go inward, because that's where the answers are, right? Know thyself, to thine own self be true, and the truth will set you free. And you are still very much on the path of awakening. And as I said, we don't ever really arrive, but we do reach a point where we start to understand what's happening, and we no longer resist, because what we resist will persist. So fighting against the change is only going to make it worse. And the change can look like physical symptoms, right? It can look like
Mhm.
relationships ending, jobs ending, I mean, whatever it takes for the universe to get your attention in order to guide you inward. Have you ever experienced that space where um, you don't really believe in God until everything blows up, and then all of a sudden you believe in God in one red hot minute, and you're like, help me. And then you get the help. The support comes, the guidance comes, the teachings come. Excuse me, legitimate teachings, not the fake stuff. Okay. So we want to remind that everything comes to you when you're ready, including the solutions. So growing pains, spirit, mind, body. The physical reality will collapse. And that in itself is really challenging. We've got to let go of relationships. We've got to let go of lifestyle choices because they just simply don't serve us anymore. So if somebody has been busy partying their face off, you're going to probably need to let that go because you just simply can't do both. And you want to let it go. So what's kept you going, Heidi? Why do you keep doing this? Why do you keep getting back up and getting back up? It's something that we...
Yeah, part of it feels like I don't have a choice. There's definitely that element to it. And like you say, the first stage of awakening is when you've hit your rock bottom. And I just had hit that in so many areas. So I guess that's where that layer of it didn't feel like I had a choice. You
Yeah.
know, I had to start going inward. I met you right at my most bottom. And you're right, you get relief as you kind of go into that contraction you talk about. Then you have an epiphany, and then you kind of hit a little plateau for a while, and you want more and more of that feeling, I find.
So there's the perks, right? And we really don't have a choice because going inward
Mhm.
is the only way that we're going to receive relief. Through self-reflection, we gain self-awareness, which means we gain self-control. We gain the ability to self-soothe. We gain the ability to self-trust, self-respect, self-love, which gains us the ability to self-correct, which means we can be heading down a path that isn't working for us in any area of our lives. And as a result of this self-reflection, we gain the ability to recognize what's happening in our lives. Most people are on autopilot. Most people are asleep. So they have little to no awareness at all. In fact, most people have no awareness about what's happening in their lives. And that's when we practice the 4 demon mindsets that I call the victim, needy, righteous, and entitled mindsets. And when we are still unconscious of who and what we are, we're on autopilot. And those mindsets cycle over and over and over again, giving us false feedback, you could say, about our experience, hence Master of Victim Mentality, the title that you've got on your screen today. So the payback, it's so true, right? And humor, oh my gosh, right? There's an antidote to some of the growing pains. Definitely humor. Bring your humor, you're going to need it. And you're really good at that. I really appreciate that about you. That it diffuses things, right? So we want to recognize that we don't have a choice. If you really do want relief, then you need to recognize that no one's coming to save you. And that the symptoms...
That's been a big...
Yes. And we're taught by society to seek outside of ourselves. We're not taught to go to the guide inside. And myself, I've been a guide and a teacher on this subject for most of my life, actually, having been born with the sensitivities awoken within me as a child. I would still say to somebody who's coming to me to seek support, I'm not your guru. Go to the guide inside, right? Don't put me on a pedestal. I'll fall off, jump off, or you'll push me off, because we are each designed to be self-sovereign. Personal sovereignty is the name of the game, right? As we learn to master energy and emotion and to soothe, calm, and then learn to course correct the chaos that's going on outside of us. So as you've...
And as little girls, we're really not taught to
No.
be the captain of our own ship. As you also say, you know, I still catch myself often wanting someone to come and make it easier and save me. So that's a big hook that I'm still trying to clear.
Yes. And no one can save us, but we can create a community of support. And that's what we've got on the private network that I have, LynettaLinda.com, if anybody's interested. It is a private community of people who are all on the path and who understand realistically, honestly, and truly what's required in order to awaken to our true self. So your world's going to experience collapse. There's a lot of tears. There's physical symptoms, there's emotional symptoms, there's psychological symptoms, and there's very clear evidence in your physical story. Like I said, you know, your house might burn down if that's the way the universe needs to get your attention, or God, whatever you want to call it. You'll notice that relationships that no longer serve us will fall away, and we don't seem to have any control over the falling away of the relationship. So this is where we learn to let go. This is where we learn how to cooperate with the universe so that we can grow and expand and begin to recognize that we are multidimensional, interdimensional, multisensory, immortal creator gods. And by mastering energy and emotion, the awakening process teaches us how to master energy and emotion. We turn that chaotic world that's painful into one that becomes so much more desirable. How would you say that, Heidi?
Yeah, I mean, rewarding and deep and purposeful and enjoyable. I feel like I see a lot more signs of synchronicity now and intuition, and that when I'm in the mud again, because that happens over and over, right? Constant challenges, like you say, that's the process. But I feel like I can see that I'm on the path more now by these little signs of like the clock having the time the same, or think about someone and an hour later they call me. So that to me just gives me the juice to keep going as well as
Mm-hmm.
those moments of relief.
The little synchronicities and miracles. So we want to understand that we grow from a state of the problem collapses. So what is not for our greater good, which causes harm to us or to anyone else, will always eventually collapse, right? It's an unsustainable situation unless it's for the greater good. And that's what we're seeing globally right now. So we go from the contracted state or the collapse. And in the contracted state, we're designed to go inward. And when we go inward, everything we need comes to us. The master stays at home and waits for no one. It comes to you. So when we go into the contracted state, that's essentially the problem. And when we allow ourselves, when we choose consciously and deliberately to go inward, everything we need, all the tools, all the insight, the miracles, the synchronicity that we need, the guidance, the support that we will find in the contracted state will release us from the contracted state to the expanded state. And then we contract again and we expand again, and we contract again and we expand again as we clean up each one of the areas of our lives which are creating disturbances, pain, and suffering. So it's very important to recognize that in the physical reality, we never arrive. So one of the things we have to let go of is perfectionism. The idea that, we do ever arrive. We don't. We just become more and more adept at mastering the contraction and expansion. We start to release the need to control it, to resist it. We start to learn to surrender into the challenge, to be open, loving, as I call it, blowjobs, to be loving, open, and willing to the expansion process. And it can require that it doesn't. I'm going to correct that. It's not that it can require, it will ask of us to be willing to let go of our former self, to let go of our perspectives, the mindsets and the belief systems, the lifestyle choices, the relationships, the job, the home, the neighborhood, whatever it is, it's going to ask us to let that go. And as we let that go, we expand into the more expansive freedom state. And then once we hit that plateau, we've learned that lesson, then we're going to expand again. We're going to go back into the contraction, expand again. So we've been programmed by society to believe that we grow in a linear, logical path, and we don't. That's a lie. We grow in a...
And I find it's easy then for me to shame and kind of guilt myself that, oh, why am I revisiting this layer again? That's a big theme for me in this kind of growing pains. Like, oh, I've spent so much time on this. Why is this coming back? And it's this circular process you're talking about, not the linear that we've been told.
Right. So the old programming, shame, blame, fault finding, perfectionism, the idea that we arrive, that has to all go. We want to remember that we're immortal beings and that we're here in the physical reality to master energy and emotion. So when we understand that karma is a lack of self-awareness, right? Karma is not a punishment, as religions would like you to believe. Karma is a lack of self-awareness. And each contracted state, each collapse is designed to bring our attention to where we lack self-awareness. And where we lack self-awareness, we repeat cycles. And if we believe that we arrive, if we believe that we're meant to be perfect, then you're going to cycle over and over and over again, having the same experience over and over and over again until you finally recognize that it's the false belief that is creating the problem. We want to recognize energy follows attention. What you put your attention upon, what you focus on, becomes your reality. So when we understand that our external reality is a reflection of our internal belief system, our internal level of consciousness, we can begin to understand the process of awakening. So the epiphany, I'd like to talk about epiphanies. So epiphanies are, when you have an epiphany, Heidi, how does it feel in your body? So again, spirit, mind, body. What do you experience in your physical body when you've had an epiphany?
Relief, expansion,
Aha.
like a feeling of knowing.
Okay. Right. And so knowing is not,
Yeah.
knowing is, let's be clear, knowing is not intellectual information. It's not regurgitated information. It's not coming off the internet or out of a book. Knowing, okay, is a word that's been inverted and distorted. Knowing is experience. So once we actually experience the lesson and we are open to allowing it to take us through this awakening process, we experience an epiphany, which literally causes the physical body to feel lighter. You have an aha, I get it now, right? And the only way to actually experience that is to live in the body through the lesson, to remain in the body for the lesson. And so the epiphany at the energetic level is us releasing a lie. Now, any lies, you can imagine, we're both wearing white today, anything to stay cooler, right? Imagine that a lie or karma is like a black blotch on your white shirt. And the contraction or the collapse is the universe saying it's time to deal with this black blotch. And this black blotch is going to represent some form of a lie, a lack of self-awareness that you've integrated into your experience, which doesn't serve you. So, excuse me, when we experience the contraction, the collapse, that particular lesson is rising up. And the black blotch, ruins the outfit, basically. When we understand what that black blotch means through experience, knowledge, and we release it, we feel the lift energetically, because that black blotch is actually energetically heavy. It holds us down.
I was going to say,
right?
Yeah.
The lies hold us back. So the white blouse looks so much nicer when you get rid of the black blotch. And metaphorically speaking, okay, this represents the truth being integrated. And we are light beings. We are both light, as in energy beings made of light. Our true essence is made of light. We're not made of material matter. So when we experience the aha, the epiphany, we also in the physical body feel lighter. We feel lifted. Then the next thing is to recognize or to choose whether or not we're going to apply that knowledge in our experience. So now you've learned the lesson. Are you going to apply what you know the next time the opportunity to apply that lesson comes up? Or are you going to abdicate your power? So what is wisdom?
Knowledge applied.
Exactly. That's really important.
Yeah.
Knowledge applied.
Using that lesson.
So as we're progressing on the path, the growing pains become more and more manageable, and they do begin to diminish. So the level of discomfort, pain, and suffering that you experienced on your journey initially, over a decade ago when we met, is simpler, easier, because you're now applying what you know, and that is what makes us wise. Knowledge applied. Wisdom is knowledge applied. Knowledge is experience. So in the growing pain path, there's also things that we may want to do physically. And what are some of the things that you've discovered support the physical body? Because we experience it mind, body. Okay, we experience it energetically. We experience it psychologically, and we experience it physically. What are some of the things that you've discovered support you on this path?
Mm-hmm. You know, food, eating organic, lighter, cleaner food and clean water. You know, if I go in somewhere and there's perfumes or fluorescent lights, I feel so much more sensitive to that now as well. So much choosier. I don't think that's a word, but much
Make
more
it up.
choosy about where I where I can go, and yeah, what kind of chemicals I can be around. And then I became a homeopath on our journey, and that has really supported me because that's more of an energetic medicine that really engages with that deep level that we're working on with you. But also the medicine can kind of support that. So,
So
yeah,
physically,
those are the ways.
for today's chat, we have a
Hmm.
couple more scheduled. We'll talk about the physical stuff.
Hmm.
So we most definitely we do need to clean up our environment. So if we're eating a lot of really
Hmm.
highly refined and processed foods, the physical body is
Hmm.
blocked up and basically full of gunk, you could say. And the matrix,
Yeah.
the parasitic class, has deliberately poisoned us, our water supply, our
Hmm.
food supply, in an attempt to block our
Hmm.
expansion. So the more authentic we are, the more conscious we are. And the more authentic and conscious we are, the more we need to clean up our environment. So I say to the beginners that I'm working with, and as always to remind again, are you honored by the company you keep, what you eat, and where you sleep? So to recognize that you will want to clean up your diet. And again, you become motivated to do this because you just feel better. When we start to care about
Hmm.
how we feel, we become disciplined and motivated to make the choices, to the point where I know both you and I, we eat very similar, and there's no going back. I am not going
Hmm.
to McDonald's. I am not going to Tim Hortons. I am not eating at Boston Pizza. Not happening. Okay,
Hmm.
those are things that I let
No.
go of decades ago because it blocks my ability to remain present and to move forward in that light body. So we clean up our food.
Yeah.
We'll also begin to let go of addictions like alcohol,
Hmm.
chemicals, and this can include also pharmaceuticals, anything that disconnects
Hmm.
us from who and what we are. We will also
Hmm.
we will also find that we need to clean up our physical environment, right? You might feel like you want to start to clean
Hmm.
things up, you want to start to organize your house, you start to have a little bit more
Hmm.
self-care about your body, you might want to start to exercise, you might want to start to really make choices that we inherently know are better for us, but we don't become motivated to make
Hmm.
those choices until we become as desperate as the dying can be. We've hit that bottom, right? So humans are quirky creatures, really.
Yeah.
We really are. And we need to be motivated sometimes to
Hmm.
make those choices. So homeopathy, I have
Hmm.
myself also found that homeopathy is a very
Hmm.
powerful tool. However, homeopathy isn't really going to work until you become more conscious about who and what you are, and recognizing that you have a tremendous power within you to heal your own body, right?
Hmm.
Homeopathy,
Hmm. Yeah, I love,
go ahead.
yeah, that just it breaks that relationship of the typical doctor patient where I'm going to the doctor, I want you to fix me. Homeopathy and your work is really empowering us that we have everything within us. We
Mm-hmm.
just have to remember
Mm-hmm.
it and connect back in with it.
Yeah.
So I love how homeopathy dovetails with a lot of what you say.
Natural medicine. And it's very helpful when you start to do some research, you'll
Hmm.
discover that, and I'm sure you probably already know this, that the natural medicines that mankind's been using for thousands of years were actually destroyed. They were discredited
Hmm.
through a massive campaign by the
Hmm.
parasitic elite in order to thwart
Yeah.
our capacity to gain real and true medicine for healing. So I myself, I
Yeah.
use homeopathy, as you know. I use natural medicine.
Hmm.
I have a naturopathic doctor as well. I don't use allopathic medicine unless absolutely necessary. Allopathic medicine, from my perspective, is good in a crisis, but it is not good for
Yeah.
sustainable long-term health. And that's what we're looking for, right? Looking for
No.
that sustainable long-term physical health, emotional
Hmm.
health, and the psychology that supports both of those. And in so doing,
Mhm.
we experience a completely different reality, to the point where you can look at somebody physically and you can tell what they're eating. You can tell what their psychology is. You can tell by the level of drama and chaos that they've got in their world. You can really see the level of consciousness that they're experiencing at that point. So also, what are some of the other tools that we want to practice to alleviate the growing pains? I would say sleep.
Getting quieter, getting more still, so that what's coming to mind is your, how you say, ego communicates in sledgehammer and spirit is in feather. And, allopathic medicine is sort of like the sledgehammer. You're not very conscious. Your physical issues are probably large. You go to the doctor and you want a sledgehammer to stop feeling it all. But as I've done the work with you and have become more still, your physical symptoms can get a little more subtle. And so going in and listening, and I still have physical issues, and I try to get more curious about it, like, what is this trying to teach
Mm-hmm.
me? And it does get more subtle, so I have to bring all the tools to support it.
Blowjob.
Go inside and ask the guy inside. Yeah.
Be loving,
Yeah,
open,
try not to
willing.
judge it.
Yes. And absolutely, the
Yeah.
symptoms
Yeah.
that we're experiencing while we're really unconscious are very loud and can be obnoxious and can be something that we're completely unaware of because we're unconscious. We're just on autopilot repeat, not recognizing until we become more and more in tune to recognize, as we become more and more in tune, that we're incredibly sensitive beings. We're multi-sensory beings. And the matrix system, the current education, finance, politics, religion, medical systems are all designed to dumb us down and to keep us in that very blunt sledgehammer stage. The more aware we become, the more self-awareness through self-reflection, the more we begin to recognize that we are incredibly sensitive and powerful beings. And as we remove the blotches, we start to recognize, no, it's okay. I don't need a sledgehammer. I'm already tuning in. I'm being loving, open, and willing. I'm listening. And I recognize that it doesn't take the big sledgehammer, actually. And then we start to learn that we can prevent the sledgehammer. We don't need things to become so big and chaotic. We can start to see them coming because we're tuning in and we're much more sensitive. I know for anybody that I've worked with on the path of awakening, and I've been doing this work for many, many, many years, and I know myself right from birth, I've always been very sensitive to smells, to chemicals, to foods, to environments, to lighting, etc. And if we are still really unconscious, we don't recognize that most of our physical environment is toxic and it keeps us disconnected. So the more in tune you are energetically, the more sensitive you become to what is inauthentic and what is toxic. So you're not going to find me in the mall. You're not going to find me on a roller coaster. I don't put anything on my body that I can't put in my body except toenail polish. I wouldn't eat my toenail polish, but I do try to use the healthier stuff that is less toxic. I don't use, hair products. Obviously, I don't color my hair, any of these things. And it's a choice that I make as a result of self-love, right? So would you say that your growing pains teach you self-love?
Yeah, I mean, that's a hard layer for me, just trying to eradicate that bully inside of me, that critic, and bring it back to self-love. That's a layer that consistently comes up for me to work with. Yeah.
So again, we're taught by the matrix to judge ourselves, to be critical, to decide that we need to look a certain way, and that in order to look that way, you're now going to need to mutilate your body. You're going to take in toxic chemicals. What you put on your skin soaks in, and you're going to, put chemicals on your body and in your body, all in an attempt to get that external approval, to fit in with the herd mentality. And those are all things that we have to start to let go of on the path as well. So
Mhm.
we're going to finish up for today's chat, and we are coming back. We've kind of gone all over the place today. In our next week's chat, we'll hone it in a little bit. But is there anything that you would say today before we go for anybody who's learning, anybody who's starting to awaken, anybody who is, you know, hitting their bottom? Any suggestions that you would have, having been there yourself, and remembering that we really are the same being inside? We are the same being. We are one being having a separate experience, right? So what suggestions would you make for somebody who's just beginning this journey, or who's really unfamiliar with what this looks like?
Mm-hmm. To just stick with it. That that piece that you never arrive. Just, you know, trying to clear that belief, and you're just on the journey, and we're all doing it at some point or another, because everyone's going to hit a rock bottom, and just keep going. Just keep going. Yeah.
Chop wood, carry water, one
Don't
foot
give
in
up.
front of the other. Chop wood, carry water, one foot in front of the
Honor.
other. Because you're worth it. No one's
Yeah.
to
And
save you.
and support the mentor. I mean, I couldn't do it without you, because I can't always see that false belief or what's going on inside of me, reflection from a tried and true mentor like yourself. So I would absolutely add
Thank you.
that piece in. It's essential.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And we'll find that when we're ready, when we're truly ready, energetically ready, and that can happen inside of you without anybody else outside of you being aware of it. When you're ready, the universe will bring you whatever you need. So I would be really,
Mm.
really cautious before I go out there shopping and looking,
Mhm.
right? And like
Mhm.
tried and true is absolutely valuable information. I know myself, and you know this from talking with me, you know, in day-to-day life. I practice the tools myself because
You
we
do
never arrive. Pardon me?
more than anyone. You walk the talk more than anyone I've ever met.
Well, I'm sure I don't walk the talk more than anyone, but I do my best to do my best, right? I want to let go of competing and comparing, but recognizing that while we're in the physical body, we never arrive. While we're in the physical body, the challenges that come through day-to-day life will consistently offer us opportunities to move from imbalance to balance, imbalance to balance, imbalance to balance. And as we become more practiced, we become more adept, and life starts to smooth out, and we develop the ability to create the reality of our dreams through our capacity to master energy and emotion. And that requires a complete system deprogramming.
Yeah,
You
I
have
was
been
going to
complete.
say, just one last piece is that nugget that shifted for me working with you, that everything is happening for me. Making that huge paradigm shift has also helped me to stay on the path. Like, well, this challenge is coming up, it's happening for me.
Yes, that is a
That's
really
a
powerful reminder. And I remind myself that too, you know, as challenges come up, and they continuously come up. And then it's my choice to apply what I know or not. And if I don't apply what I know, then the universe ups the ante and makes the lesson a little bit louder, because the universe doesn't send you lessons in proportion to what you feel like today. Okay. The universe sends you
yeah.
lessons in proportion to your level of consciousness, which will challenge you, which will cause you to go outside of your comfort zone, right? So we need to learn to become comfortable with going outside our comfort zone. And that gets a lot easier when we remember everything is happening for us. And I'm thinking of childbirth, right? You and I have both given birth to 2 children. Ouch. It hurt,
Ouch.
right? But we do it.
A little bit.
But we do it because
Yeah.
we know that on the other side of this painful experience is this most incredible and beautiful reward, right? So to adopt the mindset right out from the beginning that you will get through the growing pains, chop wood, carry water, one foot in front of the other, don't give up, and understand on the other side of the painful experience becomes the epiphany, the aha, the reward, and keep going and keep going and keep going, right? Okay, Heidi, we're going to let it go
Yeah.
for today. I'm melting under the light.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week. Thank you for anybody who's tuning in. If you're interested in what Heidi and I are talking about, our community, it's LynetteAlinda.com. And you can also tune into the book that I've created, an audio book called MathMagical.com, which is a beginner's guide to the awakening process. So thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you next week, darling. Have a